So you might be out there looking for some undervalued players in fantasy football. But what if I told you I have 5 players who are going to bounce back in 2025 that nobody out there sees coming? Because if they did, they'd be going way higher in your drafts. So I'm going to start with QB, and I'm going to start off by giving you Dak Prescott. The man finished as the QB3 in 2023. Obviously, 2024 wasn't off to that hot of a start. Didn't really look like the Cowboys were on the same pace, the same level as they were the season before, and he ended up getting injured and letting Cooper Rush take over. Now, I've heard some people out there say, oh, Dak used to run the ball a lot more, blah, 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 blah. Okay, what if I told you that Dak only rushed 55 times for 242, I think it was 0.5 yards in 2023? If we removed Dak's rushing, and he had 2 touchdowns as well. If we removed Dak's rushing, we removed his rushing touchdowns, which means no QB sneaks, no nothing, just no rushing whatsoever. He still would have finished as QB6. Still would have finished as QB6 with no rushing touchdowns, just throwing the football. QB6 in 2023. He is being drafted this year outside of the QB1 range. He is going as QB15. QB15. If you're in Superflex, smash the button. If you're not in Superflex, and again, you don't have to trust me in these videos that I make, but if you're going really late on a QB, and you're maybe going to double stack QBs because you're going at the very end of your draft, maybe you want to take Just Fields, Drake May, wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe pair him up with a little old Dak Prescott. Or, again, just be paying attention to what happens during the first week of the season. You are going to have a healthy CeeDee Lamb. You are going to have a healthy, brand new to the team, George Pickens, who is a field extender. They just gave Ferguson an extended contract. They have Jalen Tolbert. Dak Prescott, highly undervalued. A guy who, again, finished as the QB3 in 2023. Has a nice rhyme to it. He is being severely undervalued, severely underappreciated. It's going to be a much better season for the Dallas offense this year. If you do not draft him, he is somebody that, kind of like last year, like Baker Mayfield, with all the weapons on his team, he is somebody you need to be paying attention to. If week 1, he has a mini pop-off where he looks a little bit better, a little more dynamic like he did maybe at the beginning of the season last year, he is somebody who you are going to regret either not drafting or not picking up early on the waiver wire. The next player is going to be at the running back position. It is none other than Isaiah Pacheco from the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, broke his leg. Really bad. Understand. Don't like broken femurs or whatever the broken bone actually was. Bad news. But the first 2 games of the season, which again is a very small sample size, he was on pace to do what he was doing in his second year in 2023. So if we think about that, he was on pace to continue his 2023 season going into 2024. First 2 games. Great. Kareem Hunt is the backup on this team, the guy they brought over. He was very inefficient, looked older. He helped them get as far as they got. Great. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the lead back on this team, hands down, no question. I don't care what training camp news is. The man is much more explosive and much more of a grinder. He's much more like a younger Kareem Hunt. So if we're thinking about this, the pace he was on through his first 2 games was a very similar pace to how it was in his season in 2023. Had he continued that pace, just for 16 games, I'm not asking you to stay healthy for 17 games as a running back, but for 16 games, he would have finished as the RB13, right outside of an RB1 range. He is now going as RB23. So you're getting a guy who would have finished, and again, even in his last season in 2023, he would have finished as a fringe RB1, beginning of RB2. You're getting him as the bottom of the barrel as an RB2, like 23, 24, 25, he's right there at the bottom. You're getting a guy who's on the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. If you think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are so dang good, you've got to think that Isaiah Pacheco is going to be good. They have a potential to be a top 10 scoring offense. He is going dramatically later than other running backs who are going to also have that same opportunity. He is going after guys who realistically have no chance of being in the top 10 offense as far as scoring offenses go. Again, Isaiah Pacheco set to bounce back in 2025, period, end of story. Next, we have a tight end. It is Sam Laporta from the Detroit Lions. I can admit Ben Johnson leaving is not good. I can admit that this offense is probably going to take a miniature step back in 2025. But what I cannot forget is that in 2023, he was the tight end 1 in fantasy football. He was the Brock Bowers of 2024 and 2023. What is going to happen is that Sam Laporta is going to be on a top 10 scoring offense in 2025. He did not look very good through the first 5 weeks of the season. I guess 4 weeks because their bye week is in week 5. He did not look good. He did not look healthy. He had some type of injury. It took him a little bit of time to bounce back even after the bye week in week 5. But if we look at what he did after week 5, took that average PPR points per game and then put it over 16 games, because again, I don't expect anyone to stay healthy for all 17 games. So if he averaged what he did after the bye week through 16 weeks, he would have finished as the tight end 5. Now, he's not getting as much of a value because you're taking him at tight end 4, tight end 5, depending on your format. There's still a reality where he could bump George Kittle all the way, maybe Brock Bowers, maybe Trey McBride. He might be able to nudge his way up. It is not outside of the reality for him to be the number 2 target earner on this team going into 2025. I have said it in another video. I anticipate seeing this happen where there is a more closer knit group of targets on this team and a closer knit group of people that they really want to rely on. I think it is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, it is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, and it is going to be Sam Laporta. Those 3 guys are going to reign supreme, I believe, with the departure of Ben Johnson because they are the number 1s at their actual positions. All that goes to say that Sam Laporta is going to have a bounce back year in 2025. It is not outside of the realm, like I said already, for him to finish as a top 2 tight end. He could finish as number 1. The guy finished number 1 in 2023. He's being underdrafted. He's going to bounce back from where he finished last year at the very least to end up at tight end 4, tight end 5. He is somebody that I am drafting with confidence in my drafts, and I would recommend you do the exact same thing. So from here, moving over to wide receiver, we're going to be looking at none other than Calvin Ridley with the Tennessee Titans. He finished last year as the wide receiver 28. He finished in 2023 as the wide receiver 18. He is somebody who, when you look at his actual stats and analytics and yards per route run and all of his open metrics, he pretty much did the same thing last year that he did the year before in 2023. But he went from 18 to 28. Why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you, Will Levis was not it. Will Levis pretty much bottom of the barreled out last year and tanked Calvin Ridley in fantasy football. You're going to get elevated QB play out of the QB position from Cam Ward. He got drafted at number 1. I'm sure everybody knows that. But what I expect to see out of Cam Ward is a guy who can throw the ball with confidence, who can throw the deep ball, who can throw the short ball, who can run when he's put in bad spots and throw on the run. We did not get that from Will Levis. Calvin Ridley is being undervalued so much in fantasy football. I have been drafting him in almost every draft of them. It's kind of gross at this point in time. He is probably my number 1 drafted player, which is stupid to say because it's Calvin Ridley. But you have to understand that last year, he had his highest yards per reception in his whole career with Will Levis. There is no other wide receiver options on this team. D-Hop is gone. Once D-Hop left last year, Calvin Ridley was the guy. Chigakonkwo is what? The tight end? He's a tight end on the team. He's not a wide receiver. He's not as good as Calvin Ridley. You are drafting him as wide receiver 36. You're drafting him as wide receiver 36. You're drafting a guy, almost an entire wide receiver group after where he finished last year. It's 8 spots. That's almost 12. He finished the year before as a high-end wide receiver 2. He's going to have the best quarterback he's probably had since Matt Ryan. Like, it's crazy to think that he's being this undervalued. I know this is like an undervalued ADP thing, but he is going to bounce back in 2025. He is going to be someone that I just truly, honestly believe is going to be somebody who is going to be a late round person for you, who you're going to take a shot on, and he is going to help you win at the very least in your flex spot. If he finishes as a wide receiver 3, you're still drafting him as a wide receiver 3. So what's the worst case scenario? You draft the guy at his floor and he finishes at his floor. Oh no. But he is somebody who's going to bounce back in 2025. It is going to be kind of crazy. Nobody's going to see it coming. You know how I know? Because nobody else on YouTube's telling you about him. I am. To round out my group of 5 players, it is going to be another wide receiver. It is going to be Stephon Diggs. In 2023, Stephon Diggs finishes the wide receiver 9. That's number 9. Top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. He averaged less. It's 0.9 points less than he did in 2023 as a wide receiver 9 through his first 8 games before he got hurt last year with the Texans in 2024. Obviously, he didn't play after week 8, so he ended up being, wide receiver 42 or some stupid number like that because he only played half the season. Had he averaged the same 15.2 PPR fantasy points per game throughout the whole 16 games, not 17 because I don't expect anyone to stay healthy the whole year, he would have finished as wide receiver 11. Again, probably not super realistic because Nico missed some of those games. Tank Dell was out. I get all that kind of like craziness happened, but he was still doing a lot of that when Nico was still on the field and Tank Dell was still on the field. So you're taking a guy who's being drafted as wide receiver 42. 42! He is going as a wide receiver 4, almost at the bottom. He's halfway to the bottom of a wide receiver 4. He's getting closer to wide receiver 5. I get that the New England Patriots last year were booty. They were cheeks. They were bad. They were not a good offense. They were not a good team. But they drafted Travion Henderson. They added some offensive line help. The defense is going to be better. Mike Vrabel is going to be better. Drake May is going to take a huge step in year 2. He will end up, regardless of what you hear in camp, because I've heard some Travion Henderson stuff, he is going to be the number 1 receiving target for this team. He is the wide receiver 1. Hunter Henry is an old tight end. The rest of the wide receivers aren't anything too crazy. Kyle Williams could come on as the season goes along. Great. But I am getting a guy who in 2023 finished as wide receiver 9. Last year, he was on pace, PPR points per game, through 8 games, finished as wide receiver 11. And I'm getting him as wide receiver 42. Not only is he going to have a bounce back, let's say worst case scenario, Stephon Diggs finishes as wide receiver 32. Obviously, there's some wide receiver 2s in there, but that means that he finishes as almost one of the worst wide receiver 1s in fantasy football. If that is where he finishes, he is still going to be finishing 10 spots, almost an entire round of wide receivers higher for you than where you drafted him. In my opinion, that is a great value pick for you, especially with him going that late in your drafts. He is going to bounce back. He is going to return to form. And it's not even like returning to form. People forget what he did last year as the wide receiver 2 on the Texans team. I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me. So Stephon Diggs is going to be a smash pick. Again, somebody I'm enjoying drafting that late in my drafts. He is going to smash. He is going to bounce back. He is going to finish much higher than wide receiver 42. People should be drafting him as such. So I have to apologize. A little more energy right now. Haven't done a video in the past few days. Went to the beach. That's why I have a little bit of a sunburn on my face. But these are 5 players that are set to have bounce back seasons in 2025. They are going to pop off. They are going to outperform their draft position. If you guys are looking for other late round picks that I think have real league winning upside, not stuff that you've seen everywhere else on social media and on YouTube, of other players that I think are being super undervalued that could help you win your fantasy football championship in 2025. Hopefully this video helps you get just a little bit closer to winning your fantasy football championship in 2025. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. No, hopefully you guys will see me again real soon. And until then, y'all have a blessed day. Bye.